He is a leadership coach from the Gold Coast. He's the founder of the Flow Formula. And in the last 10 years, he's coached federal members of parliament from both parties. He's also coached world champion athletes from 2 sports, bodybuilding and sailing, and 4,000 coaches. Please welcome Cody McAuliffe.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. If you're watching this, I'd love to see you in the comments. We'll be able to see them come up here for you guys. So the more engagement and interaction that you guys have, the better it's going to be. So a little bit about me. First of all, I'm a coach and I work specifically with leaders. And I've been doing this for the last 11 years. And over the last 11 years, I've worked with thousands of other coaches. I've worked with federal members of parliament. I've worked with all of these different people to ultimately create one thing, and that's more empowered leaders. Leadership for me is the foundation of creating any form of change in life. It all starts with our self-leadership. It all starts with how we can start to lead ourselves. And we can have that focus of leading ourselves. We can create the capacity to be able to lead other people. So the depth of the self-leadership that we have determines the depth of the relational leadership of other people and how we can actually interact and engage with other people. And when we're looking at self-leadership, the outcome that we're looking at creating from self-leadership is ultimately personal flow. And in the flow formula, proven predictable process to be able to create flow for every single individual in an individual way. And one of the core ways that we look at doing that is understanding each individual's epigenetic expression. Each person has a completely different epigenetic expression. And when we look at what that is for us, we can understand who we are at our core essence and create alignment with that to create access to living out our calling. So when we're looking at creating leadership, we look at the different levels of creating this leadership. When we're talking about that self-leadership, we're looking at creating personal flow for ourselves. When we're looking at creating relational leadership, we're looking at creating team flow. What would happen if the team that you had could actually get more done in less time? How powerful would that be? What would happen if they could come from a place of commitment to doing things for you rather than just compliance, just ticking the box? Because when we can step into our leadership on an even deeper level, what actually occurs is we create the capacity to be able to lead ourselves on an even deeper level and lead other people on an even deeper level as well. So to create context of how this relates to flow, what we're really looking at doing is marrying these two things together. What I'm committed to creating is what we call is this new paradigm of leadership, which is flow-based. So one of the core questions that most people ask is, well, what is flow then? And I'll just draw a diagram to be able to highlight what that is for you so we can define it. When we're looking at flow, we're looking at 3 variables of that which it is not, to be able to create the boundaries of that, and then 1 representation of what it is. And the acronym that we use for this is STIR. So we have selflessness, timelessness, and effortlessness. When we look at selflessness is where we start to step outside of that internal voice that we have, that internal narration which seems to play out in every single circumstance. When we can step outside of that voice, we can create access to our infinite potential, which is lying dormant within each of us. In timelessness, we experience a distorted experience of time. Time can speed up or it can slow down. We've all had that experience where we've been with someone, whether it's an intimate partner or a friend, where time just went like that. We've all had that experience. And there's also been other experiences where we've been sitting in an exam or something, or we've been waiting for something and it feels like forever. When we have access to this mechanism of timelessness, we have this distorted experience of time and we can actually learn how to get more done in less time. When we look at the mechanism of effortlessness, when the effort becomes effortless, we're in flow. So when we're looking at creating flow, we're looking at what flow is not. as well as the one mechanism of what it is. It is not in the mechanism of the internal narration of the self in our mind. It is not in the realm of effort. It is not in the realm of time. And what occurs is we have this experience of richness. And this occurs when the purpose of the activity becomes the activity. We have this experience where it becomes this self-perpetuating experience. We become at one with the experience that we're in that context. We become an extension of that. We see this all the time with athletes. When a tennis player is hitting the ball, the tennis racket often becomes an extension of their body. They become at one with the experience. We can have this same experience and this heightened trance-like state in everything that we do. All that we need to understand is, well, who we are at our core essence, based on our epigenetic expression, based on understanding what the lead domino is for us to be able to create flow. Because when we understand our epigenetic expression, we can understand that there will be a specific domino that we need to knock over. And the way that we talk about this is every single person has a specific hormone or neurotransmitter that if they have that in alignment, everything else starts to fall into place. It's this cascade of events which just instantly falls into place for us. So when we look at this, we can create this perfect system, this perfect scenario of how we can create flow for ourselves. And imagine what is possible when we can create flow for ourselves. How much more can we get done? How much more can we live a lit up life? Most people live their entire life chasing moments of flow. They have this one experience of it when they're a kid, where they're looking up the clouds, they just end up chasing that for the rest of their life. What if we could create those experiences day by day, moment by moment? If only we understood what it was that created that experience for us as an individual. How powerful would that be if we could do that? How powerful would that be in terms of what you're here to create in the world? And what if that also aligned with what you're here to create in this lifetime? What if these things were actually aligned? What if every experience that you'd had was aligned with what you're here to create in this lifetime? When we look at the context of flow, we look at it being the mechanism through which we unleash our potential. We access this latent superhuman ability that all of us really have. Everything that I do is ultimately filtered through creating what I call this superhuman society. The flow formula is a mechanism through which we create that. The superhuman society is where we all live from our highest needs of growth and contribution, where our foundational needs are met, so we can live this life of deep fulfillment every moment, every experience that we have. We begin to experience the experience of experiencing the experience, which creates access to us having that state of flow, of having that distorted experience of time, of having that voice start to become quiet or even disappear. We can do this through art. We can do this through each of these experiences. And we can understand how we create that. It becomes easy for us to be able to access that. And when we can access it in ourselves, we can start to create that for other people. What if you could create yourself being in flow? How powerful would that be for you? And more importantly, what if you could create your entire team being in flow? What if you could create the people that you are leading being in flow? What if we could all have this lit up life? How powerful would that be for us to be able to create access to this society 2.0, this superhuman society that I'm committed to creating? All it takes is understanding who we are at our core essence, of understanding what our lead domino is. And when we can understand what that is, we can create that for ourselves. When we can understand what that is for other people, we can create that team flow, access to that relational leadership. when we do this, we can create this life of flow. When we have access to be able to create this life of flow, everything shifts. All of the world's problems start to melt away because we're focused on creating what we're here to create within this lifetime. We're creating for creation's sake rather than to try and do something to overcompensate. When I'm working with people, I'm consistently looking at how we can create them living the life that they're truly here to live. In the previous video, Liz talked about creating a life of happiness. What if we could all live that happy life? And what if happiness was completely different to each and every person? And what if we could understand what that was to us? What if we could understand what that was to our team member, to the person we're leading in whatever context that is, whether that's leading a team in sport, leading a team of employees, leading a country. These are all the different kinds of people that I've worked with over the years to be able to work on this. When we can understand who we are and who the other person is, we can create access to this. So what it really takes is this foundational concept of understanding who we are, which is ultimately just self-awareness. What most people don't think about is, what about the awareness of others? What about social awareness? What about where other people are coming from? What if we could understand what other people's lead domino is based on the predominant hormone or neurotransmitter that that person has? What if we could create flow between people? How powerful would that be? Because we've all had that experience where we've been with our partner and it's just gelled and it's been perfectly aligned and you're finishing each other's sentences and all of these things occurring and it's just amazing. And there are other times where, well, you just bang your head against a wall basically. So what creates each of those experiences? What creates that is us creating ourselves getting into that flow with that person. And if we understand the environment which is required for that person to get into flow and for us to get into the environment for us to get into flow, well, then we can get into that flow between people. We can have that intertwining of experience where we can create access to that lit up experience. So as we look at that, we look at some of the core mechanisms of that. And communication becomes the perfect expression of that. When we're creating flow between people, it's based on communication, it's based on connection. It's based on this giving and receiving. It's creating this mechanism of how we interact and engage with the dance and the flow between people. We have this capacity to be able to communicate. Communication is both speaking and listening. And the core breakdown of creating flow between people is communicating how we listen rather than how the other person listens. Because what occurs there is we have this experience of being lost in translation. I communicate completely differently to how my partner communicates. If I can understand how she listens, then what is said is what is heard. All conflict is created when what is said is not what is heard because of the differences in how we listen. So even just in this subtle, simple mechanism of communication, we can create the capacity and the environment to be able to create flow, or the alternative of conflict where we're butting heads with our partner. This occurs in every aspect of our life. We can reverse engineer these things to be able to create access to flow for us. An example of that is in my relationship, in my epigenetic expression, part of what I need is challenge. The reason why I need that is because I have a predominant hormone called ACTH, which is responsible for adrenaline, testosterone, which creates the need for challenge. That's my predominant domino that I need to knock over. And if I knock that over in my relationship, then it becomes fulfilled for me. I create flow between me and my partner. My partner is completely different. Her domino is oxytocin, so she needs connection. And as soon as I understand that, then if I create challenge within the relationship while creating connection with her, while allowing that need of oxytocin to be met, well, then we can intertwine in that instance and come together and create that flow between us. We can create that experience where we access all of those mechanisms of selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, to be able to create this richness of experience where it becomes a self-perpetuating experience. We have that experience where we're connected to that person. And we can create this in every relationship in our life. When I'm working with people in my programs, the 3 areas that we look at are friends and family, intimate relationships, and business. We want to be able to create flow in all areas of life, not just in one narrow area. There were like a few years ago, I had this experience where I was driving down the highway, had tears streaming down my face. I pulled up to this traffic light and I thought, you know what, if I just drive into traffic right now, I'll get taken out by a truck and my life will be over and it won't look like a suicide. And I had all of the trappings of success. I was presenting all around the country. I was earning more money than I'd ever earned before. And yet I still wasn't fulfilled. And in that moment, I realized I needed to get help. I needed to get help from someone to facilitate me through that. And that's what I did, and everything started to shift. I started to learn who I was at my core essence, not based on what society said that I should do, to be normal, to fit in. I learned who I was at my core essence and what I was here to create in this lifetime. And what I was here to create in this lifetime is this deep experience of fulfillment, not just for me, but for every single person. Have you ever had an experience like that in your life where you just thought to yourself, there just has to be something more? I know I've had that experience multiple times. And the core way that I've actually stepped out of that is by actually working with someone to facilitate myself through that, to be able to step outside of that, to be able to have this reflection mechanism to see the things that I could not see. Because one of the core mechanisms that we look at in terms of creating flow is having this feedback mechanism. When we can work with a coach, they're going to mirror us, they're going to create that feedback mechanism for us. And as we learn who we are based on epigenetic expression, we can create more flow for ourselves. And we learn how to create more flow for ourselves, we can start to create more flow for other people. And the reason why I do this is so that we can all live that fulfilled life. The life that was missing that one thing, that deep sense of fulfillment, even though I had all the trappings of success in that point. My mission, my purpose, and my vision for humanity is ultimately creating this superhuman society. That society where we can come from our highest needs of growth and contribution, where we grow and then contribute and then grow and then contribute and then grow and contribute and grow and contribute, and creates this infinite expression of how we create flow for ourselves. And then as we interact and engage with other people, it creates a capacity for them to grow and contribute and grow and contribute. This is the foundation of why I created the flow formula. It's the foundation of why I do what I do. It's why I get up every morning. And that creates a deep sense of fulfillment for me because it's what I'm here to create. Every program that I've created, from the Superhuman School to the 12-week Becoming Superhuman program to the Superhuman Leadership Certification, this is the core focus of it. To be able to go through this formula to create flow, to create this deep sense of fulfillment for every single person, to be able to create this superhuman society. And that's what I'm committed to creating. So, thank you for listening. If you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me at the Cody McAuliffe on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, on all the social media channels. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you around whatever is going on for you and how you can step into your self-leadership on an even deeper level and create that team flow in leading other people as well. So, thank you for listening.
Yay, Cody McAuliffe, awesome. That was amazing, fantastic. I was thinking as you were speaking that all coaches have coaches.
Yeah.
So who are some of your coaches you've had?
I've had countless coaches. I can remember, I had that pivotal moment in my life where I reached out to that person to be able to get help in that experience. And there was another time just last year that I reached out to Kate Gray, and she was one of my coaches for a long period of time. And she was one of the core people that allowed me to go exponential in my business. I went from where I was to dramatically expanding my impact on an even deeper level. And like I always thank her for that and everything that she did for me, and all the other coaches that I've worked with throughout the years. I work with countless coaches at the same time in different areas because I can understand that it creates more flow for us when we work with a coach, when we have that external feedback loop to understand what's actually going on for us. So,
yes, and seeking experts in their field allows you to be even more in flow, right?
amazing.
Brilliant. And what do you think of the Freedom Potential Center?
It's absolutely phenomenal. I actually love it here. I'm excited to be able to run events here and actually use it. And I've worked with Martin and all the team before, and I'm excited to do it again in the future.
Fantastic. Wonderful to have you here, Cody. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, people can connect with you on all the social medias here, as you can see, at the Cody McAuliffe, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Cody, for joining us. Thank you.